Good afternoon, everyone. If there's anyone out there, you're not in a parallel universe. This is basically a repeat of the interview that we did last night, which we had some technical issues with, and myself and Nick basically run the whole thing again because a handful of people got to see it. Instagram wouldn't let us save it, and it was just a bit of a shame, really. So we're going top to bottom as we did last night, so to speak, and yeah, cool. So suitable time-related greetings in relation to your geographical location. As always, please let us know where you're tuning in from, and equally, if you've got any questions to ask, then pop those in the comments below, and we'll try and sneak those in. Hello, Nicholas.
Hello, mate.
If this is the first time you tuned in, then welcome along. If you tuned in last night, then I'm afraid it is a repeat. And if you've watched our IG interviews before, it's great to see you've come back. My name's Andy. I've worked at Heritage Parts Centre for almost 13 years, and my job involves meeting people and sharing their stories about their vehicles and businesses and just basically passion for their hobby. We've got someone from Australia, which is cool. Welcome along. So since May, this has included speaking with a whole bunch of cool people. So please do go and flick through our IGTV after this and look out for a face or a name that you recognise. And yeah, hopefully you'll find something kind of interesting. Today's interview isn't with a workshop owner. It's not a magazine editor, a car collector, or a global adventurer, but he's been involved with all of these in one way or another throughout his career. He's photographed for Audi, Aston Martin, and Toyota. He's a regular behind the lens for PVW and deservedly won Automotive Photographer of the Year in 2017 as Mr. Nick Williams. Hello, sir.
Hello, mate. Hello, everyone.
This is all vaguely familiar, isn't it?
Oh, mate, deja vu. Deja vu. Love it.
So yeah, let's go big. What's your dream shoot? Who's calling you up? What's the car and where are we going? Because I'm coming too.
So I think there's two to this. The first one would be I'd love to take a Lamborghini Miura, preferably probably an SB, up to the Grossglockner up in Austria.
Yeah.
And yeah, that because it's just the views up there are amazing. It's very Italian job-esque, and it's just everything's amazing there. The second would be to take a Singer to Scotland and go sort of along the old school, sort of like the Skyfall Road, and sort of just take in all that atmosphere. Because I think it'd just be amazing to sort of see that. I just think it's it's everything. Everywhere you look is very photogenic, and it just suit both locations, suit both cars.
Have you shot in Scotland?
Not for a long time. Not for a long time. I've done a couple of little shoots, but again, it was more of the moment things, like on tours or road trips.
Yeah.
Never as like a proper shoot. So yeah.
Cool. And with the Singer, any preference on colour?
I'd probably go for something quite bright and vibrant, to be honest. Something that is a real sort of, it plays against the fact that it's normally quite muted colours up in the Highlands. It's a lot of very dark greens and that sort of the greys of the slate and stuff. So yeah, something like an orange or bright green, something that's really just wowy.
Cool. So you do live streams on your own channel quite a bit. Have you done any other interview or podcast stuff before?
Apart from last night, no. Yeah, no, it's mainly, I've done little bits and pieces, and I'm starting to edge towards some more stuff on a YouTube channel and likes. But it's not something I do a great deal of. I like doing, if I've got a different car, like the Mark 8 Golf at the moment, showing people around those types of cars and just sort of exploring, really, just showing people what I'm thinking, my thoughts, if I'm on location, if I can, that's the thing. Sometimes I can't share what I'm doing. So
that's true. 30 seconds on the Mark 8 Golf. What's your initial thoughts?
30 seconds flip. It's amazing. It's all right. It's a Golf, but not a Golf. It's a cool place to sort of be. I mean, we've got it's a 1.5 150 brake at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's nice not to be in a GTI, which is a lot of what the press have been reviewing. It's more this is what most people will end up with.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's it feels at home like any Golf does, and it's got those nice tie-ins with the last few generations. But it's got a massive the tech package on it is just completely different now. So you can see where they're going with it. It's a lot more along the lines of sort of your Audis have had for the last couple of years, but and some.
Okay, cool. So yeah, growing up, I was mad on cars, and I really hope these kind of interviews help encourage the car enthusiasts of tomorrow. What did you want to do for a job when you were at school?
Yeah. For me, it was mainly be a designer. I've always been quite creative and arty and that sort of thing. And yeah, I always really wanted to go out there and design cars. It's, you know, I was a big fan of, like, I had a print of the Alekis Agonis drawing of a classic Mini.
Okay.
Minis have played a massive part of my life and growing up. And yeah, that was something that I just got the fact that it was this sketch of a car on a napkin that he'd done, and then it's, you know, it became the most iconic British car sort of ever made. So yeah, that's where I would like to have gone or do.
What came first for you? Was it cars or cameras?
Sort of the cars, but the cameras weren't far behind. My dad he's a motoring journalist, and so when I was growing up, I used to go with him. I used to have cars on test, and he'd go off and go grab some pictures, you know, at a local beauty spot. And it wasn't long before I then would like steal his camera and go off and like try and take photos and that sort of stuff. And yeah, so I'd say, you know, there's not much difference in it. They're sort of about the same.
What was your first paying photography job?
My first one, it's sort of a home because it's now so long ago. It was about a decade ago now, but it winds with doing some work at the time I was doing for Studio Incar that were based not far from me. And he had a black Audi A4 Avant in that was on, I think it was on Rotiform wheels. It was bagged. Carl had obviously done all his audio stuff in it as well. And he said, "Oh, you know, we've got this car. Do you want to come and take some pictures of it?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, I'll come and do that." And from that, I actually then met the owner when I was doing the night photos of the car. And the reg on it was B16 PVW, and I hadn't really. And it was only then sort of once I wrapping up the shoot, and I was like, "Oh, so what do you do?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm the editor of PVW magazine." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So it was nice because it was always like a job interview, but without feeling like an interview. And it wasn't long after that I got my first paid job doing a shoot for PVW. So that's where it sort of all started, really. In terms of
that's pretty cool.
World.
So on top of photographing them, you've had some kind of pretty cool cars in your time too. What's in the stable currently?
So at the moment we have Project Roxy, which is my 2011 T5.1 van, short wheelbase. I have Project Brogue, which is my 1996/7 BMW 540i Touring V8. I've got a 1989 Mercedes 190 carburettor model, which is a bit of a oddball car. I've got the 89 or 88 944 S2 in black, which is my little Project Outlaw, and then I've got a 75 Mini 1000. So yeah, a little bit varied. I have a thing for odd cars a lot of the time. I've had some real oddballs, and yeah.
Is there a particular car that's kind of got away that you'd have back in a heartbeat?
To be honest, probably my old Focus RS. I had a Mark II Focus RS in 2009. I got it when they were about 6 months old, and I had it it was the longest car I'd had up until I got the van, and I had it for 3.5 years or so. I drove it all across Europe, took it to the Arctic Circle. I think that's one up the top. Basically, all the way through Norway and stuff, across the Atlantic Road Bridge. I did a lot of road trips in it. That's where that was the first car that really I discovered I don't like going on holidays in a traditional sense. I like going on driving tours. I like to drive to somewhere and explore the country. So yeah, and that's the car that I wish that I could have kept. Just because it was such a great all-round car, and I did some bits with it, made it a bit faster, a bit louder, spit bigger flames, and yeah, it was a good car.
Cool. You've worked for some household names when it comes to car manufacturers. How much is down to the right place and right time and who you know, and how much is down to the merits of your previous work, do you think, to kind of secure a gig like that?
It's a bit of both, I'll be honest. Like when I started working for Audi, that was a well-timed series of events. So as I touched on, my dad was a motoring journalist, and I'd already I'd put the money down deposited for a new A3 at the time when it first came out, 8V, what it was in 2013, I think, was when that came out, that model. And we managed to get so I could go on the launch, which was down at Paul Ricard Circuit in the South France.
Oh, wow.
And I could take some of my camera gear. It was one of those things, they still do it now, but maybe I don't think as much to the frivolity. Like a private jet and stuff. So you're limited on what you could take. I've taken some bits and pieces, a couple bits allowed me to light paint. And after we'd driven the car for the day, sort of back to the hotel, and I said, can I borrow some, like one of the cars? Just want to go do some photos. And their response was, it's dark. And that's why I need them. This is when I do my thing. This is what I enjoy. Yeah. And so I positioned the car, and I hadn't really realised that where I'd put it was like in front of where everyone was having dinner and stuff. So I'm just there, unbeknownst, doing my like Jedi thing of waving a light stick around and all that jazz. And I'd gone back into hand the keys, and he's like, "Oh, can I have a look?" I'm like, "Well, give me a little bit of time," sort of thing. I've got my laptop with me. Let me just do some quick edits, and you can have a look. And from that, literally the following morning, I showed him like rough, quick edits of what I'd done, and he was like, "We'll call you on Monday."
That's pretty cool.
And that was the start of a 6-year career with Audi and doing stuff for them. And yeah, it was really cool. But from that, that's once you've got your foot in the door and you'd managed to prove at a high tier that this is what you're capable of. Yeah. Then starts to allow some other doors starting to open and opportunities open based on the quality of your work that people can see.
What was your inspiration for getting into light painting, just out of interest?
So for that, it's one of these things. So I started dabbling back in late 08, maybe early 09. I was part of a group called Portsmouth at Night, which was a light painting group.
Okay.
And it's more in the traditional sense that people are used to seeing a light painted image, which was, going out to random places, a little bit of urbexing, and like doing sparklers and stuff and drawing patterns and stuff. And it was on one occasion that I suddenly, it's a light bulb moment. It's a ting. Okay, I could use this light to light a car. Yeah. So let's maybe start using what I'd practiced with a car. And at that time, literally no one was doing it because it was still like digital's been out a while. But in terms of post-production and stuff, it was still more maybe a fully CG style than actually doing it as a photo. Yeah. And it was sort of after a couple of years I started getting my name out and about, all of a sudden you saw like a massive outflux of just everyone's light painting. Yeah. But yeah, that's what sort of really got me into it, really. So it was from going the arty side of just doing random patterns and realising, I can use this method to do something completely different, but also tie them together.
Cool. Yeah. Do the bigger clients come to you with a vision and a location already in place, or are you still kind of afforded creative control, a bit like kind of when we go out and do stuff?
It's a little bit of a odd balance. So you'll get your stuff, like a lot of the press stuff I'm doing at the moment, say for Lexus and Toyota and alikes, you'll get split into two sections. So you'll have your general press photography, and then you'll have stuff for social media. And with the press stuff, it's literally go find a really boring and plain background and just literally you shoot all angles of the car, badging, lights on and off, dash lit up, off, radio, sat nav, all that jazz. Whereas when you get to the social media side, you may get a little bit of a brief. So in the iGo I just did, it was like, we'd like some graffiti and maybe do something funky at night. Yeah. And so with that, I found a location down in Portsmouth, down Southsea for the graffiti images. And then for the night stuff, I turned it on its head because we were threatened with bad weather. This is one of the things you've always got to be on your toes a little bit. So always have a backup plan. Yeah. And so the weather hadn't been looking fantastic. We'd had all that really hot sunshine, but then they were like, there's going to be thunderstorms. And so luckily, a friend locally had a unit that I could basically take the car to that's undercover. It's pitch black in there and I can light paint it. So for that, I've lit the car and then I've dropped it into a CG backplate, just to give it a nice, something different, that normally for a budget of the sizes we're dealing with normally wouldn't be possible. It's like, that's from head office style imaging. Yeah. I'm bringing what they're used to from that point of view down to actually the the country's press department or social media team. So they're able to have this really nice high-end product that helps show off whatever we're shooting.
Cool.
So yeah, so in a roundabout way, yes, you get briefs, but as you get more trust with companies, you like, we completely trust 100%.
Have you got any advice for someone who's starting out in the automotive photography game?
Yeah, it's you've got to be your own self. You've got to be your own creativity. The thing at the moment that there's a big flux with, mainly because of social media and likes of Instagram and stuff, is everyone's very used to using presets. And so you get people who go out and they'll do quite a nice job of a shoot. But then they'll be like, oh, I can buy a preset bundle for like 20 quid and apply to all their photos. And in the end, we end up with a series of imagery that's now come from different creators, but all look vaguely similar. And you're like, there's no differentiation. It's one of the things that I pride myself is that I'm completely different to anybody else. And the likes of the other photographers in the industry that I tend to deal with, that we're all on, this is our look, this is our style. So yeah, it's more about just being creative. Like, don't think that there's a right or a wrong way to do something. It's just go out there, have fun.
Yeah.
If you're not having fun doing it, then you shouldn't be doing it. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those things, because then it's you can't do it as a fun job.
Yeah. There's a few projects I'd love to know some more about. One of them being the Rolls-Royce rat rod that went to SEMA. I've never been to the States, but the whole experience must have been incredible. And the car's kind of bonkers. For people who have not seen it, look up rat rod, Rolls-Royce, SEMA. It's, blow your mind. Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, so that was an adventure we did in 2016. I did with Sam at Hard Up Garage, who I'd met that year.
Okay.
I'd met him earlier in the year at an event down in Portsmouth with it was supercars at Spinnaker. So we had loads of supercars and crazy stuff. And he had turned up with a couple of his rat rods he just had built in Mexico and shipped over.
Oh, wow.
So we got on quite well. We were having a chat and getting to know each other. And literally in a space of about 3 to 4 months, he'd become a brother, really. We get on really well. And so he was like, dude, I'm going out to America. We're building a car for SEMA. Do you want to be involved? And he'd seen that I'd done some little design pieces. So I ended up designing some logos for the car and some plaques and bits and bobs for it. But I also got to go out to Vegas. Well, in fact, go out to Mexico. So we were out there, or I was out there for 2 weeks. I went to Mexico for the week before SEMA, and then obviously the week of SEMA. And that was a cool adventure, flying into Mexico, thinking that you're meeting a friend of Sam's, and then you're just going to drive across the border to the garage, and actually you go, no, you're going to walk the border. And it's like, okay, like, this is a bit freaky, are we doing this legally, or what are we doing? He's like, no,
for a hole in the fence.
But you'll meet one of the guys from the workshop. He's going to walk across with you, and then it's literally like a couple of blocks the other side. So yeah, it was a really cool thing to do, and to capture some of those moments as the project sort of coming to fulfillment. We got to go do a shoot actually with the car in Mexico the day before we left. What's amazing, so in Juarez, where we were, it's one of the main entry and exit points of Mexico. Known as the world's most dangerous city. It's in the film Sicario, and all that type of stuff. And one of the things they have is a very big respect for the car culture and for businesses that once were there that aren't there now. So one of the things that I spotted was, instead of, you see a place that goes bankrupt or whatever, or the guy retires and somebody new will come in. Yeah. There, it's left as a memorial, and someone will build a new place behind it. And I did a series of shots, and as you'll see on most of the stuff that's appeared on social media and videos about the car, was some shots done outside of a place that just had Speed Shop Baby on it. And you tell, it was painted in like maybe the 50s, 60s. And the place is like abandoned, broken windows, but, it's still sort of respected. And we're a fair amount of distance away from the side of the road, but we even ended up, like, the police came along and were like, oh, what are you doing? And we're like, oh, just taking photos. And he basically looked at me and went, you're not from around here, you're too white. Because everyone's just so tanned. And he's like, what are you doing? Like, oh, well, we built this car here in this city. And next thing you know, like, the mayor's turned up. And he's like, "Oh, thanks for coming," and all this, that, and the other. And we're like, okay. Like, are we in trouble? We go to prison? Like, no, it's fine. No, we'll leave a police car so you got a bit more space, so you don't get any people coming up to you. Well, okay. But yeah, so we did that, and then it was fun and games, and we'd had a little bit of an issue with me when we came to leave Mexico, because when I walked across, they didn't stamp my passport, so they then wondered how I got into Mexico. But they managed to track down, gave them the times and stuff, and they're like, "Oh yeah, no, we can see when you came across. That's all."
Yeah,
fine. But yeah, and then it was just, I want to go back there because it's an amazing place, and Jesse and the guys at Street Toys and Hot Rods and Customs he's an amazing guy on his team. They're just proper old school and they love what they do.
Yeah.
So yeah, like to go back and do some more stuff with them. But yeah, and then SEMA itself, it was just incredible. It's unlike anything you'll ever experience. If anyone's ever been to the NEC up in Birmingham and knows the size of the entire complex, so all of those halls, if you imagine all those halls squashed together in that floor space, that's just one hall at SEMA full of tyres.
Wow.
To give you an idea of scale. So you're there for a week or 5 days. You could do with 10 days, really, to see everything, because it's just so vast. And you've even got down to the point that some people are exhibiting at hotels because all the floor space at SEMA is sold out. So
Okay.
like they'll rent like little conference rooms and stuff like that to try and show off their products. So yeah, it's a bit of a crazy experience, but it's amazing. And you get to see a lot of people chip booths and that sort of thing, and they're all just being them. There's no personas, because it's seen as it's a trade show, so the public aren't really allowed in.
So you can't just buy a ticket?
No.
Okay.
So you can only go if you are accredited with SEMA. And with that, you have to show that you're either someone like me in the media, or you own a shop or a garage or whatever. They do a show at the end of the week, and it's a clever way basically to stop the carnage of 3,500 cars leaving all at once from inside the halls, which is there's a parking lot opposite SEMA, the Las Vegas Convention Center, and they do a show called SEMA Ignited. And basically it's used as a way to get all the cars out and into a separate holding area, and they charge people, I think it's about $10 to get a ticket to go in, or if you've been at SEMA you get free entry. But it's cool because the public then do get a chance. If they pay the $10, they can come in and look at the cars that were there, and everyone's shout. There's photos of me with like the guys from Diesel Brothers and stuff, and me looking quite tired and partially drunk to 1 or 2 fizzy lemonades. So yeah, there's some cool stuff kicking about out there from that trip, and just the people you get to meet. Steve Darnell for World Rock Garage, and the locations. We shot the selection of cars that were part of this rat rod build off that we were part of as well. We took about 5 or 6 cars down to a place that Steve had told me about on the outskirts of Vegas that was just amazing. And it's one of those, all the cars were all very different, some really ratty stuff, some slightly smarter stuff, then obviously our Rolls Royce thing. And yeah, it was just, it's one of those things, mate, you can't plan for that type of shoot. It's literally, you turn up and you just go, okay, this will work. Like literally, there was a little dirt track off one side. Like you come across this tarmac piece of road, and then it goes to dirt, and then for about a quarter of a mile, and then it's tarmac again. And it's literally there. Like if you're carrying up that road, it goes to some old mines or something. But so you had the nice. If you looked one way, tarmac and the road sweeping off. The other way, you'd look and you had a sharp corner of the tarmac in the cool mountain range. But to the left, there was a little dirt track, and we had this amazing little model. I think it's a Model T pickup, open top roadster thing. Yeah. And the guy that owned it, I can't remember his name, but he was just one of those guys, really chilled out, and he's there. And I just got some natural shots. He was like, "Oh, I'm gonna have a cigarette," and he's just sat on the back of his truck on this dirt trail having a cigarette. And I'm like, this is so perfect. Yeah. But you can't plan that. If you said to him, "Oh, can you go have a cigarette on the back of your truck?" He'd be force posing it. Yeah. Whereas with this, he was just chilled, and he was just like taking it in. Cool. But lots of things. It's hard to explain because it's so much stuff that was over 2 weeks. But yeah, it's, if you look online for like Rolls Royce Rat Rod or Rolls Rat Rod, you'll see it everywhere.
Can't miss it.
Yeah.
Another amazing opportunity you've had was to photograph Derek Bell's 924 GTS at his house. Yeah. How did that come about?
So we've been quite fortunate that Dad's got a very good association with Derek and his son. And it's always been that like a family bond thing. Like we're quite amicable, friendly people. Do you know what I mean? I think like me and you, that's the sort of relationship we sort of have. And I've been literally trying since I really first started that I wanted to do a shoot with Derek in the Porsche, and it never quite lined up. And then we basically matched the time. I think it was a revival a few years ago. He was over here. He had a little bit of spare time, and we managed to basically get an evening where I could have him for a couple of hours, and then he was going to have to pop out and leave me to it basically with the car. And yeah, it was lovely because it was sunset, and I've like got pictures of him just wiping down the car and stuff you don't see of that type of person, because a lot of the time people think, oh, they must have someone who does it for them.
Yeah.
Whereas it's like Derek is like, no, he does it himself. It's his car. He's a car guy. You know, so yeah, it was nice. I had a nice series of those shots. And then I say he had to pop out, and he sort of gave my dad the keys to his house and stuff and the Porsche. And he's like, you know where to put them, Glenn. You know, it's you've been here enough time, sort of thing. So yeah, that was very cool and surreal, and like seeing his garage. That's, you know, it's like most people's garage. It's got stuff everywhere. But he's got his old his manager who's only passed away a few years ago left him a 550 Maranello Ferrari, beautiful. Okay. So that was there undercover. Had a couple of like dirt bikes kicking about, and obviously the Porsche goes next to that. And he had this lovely wooden plaque. I'll never forget it. It was wooden plaque, and I think it was OMP who made the wheel originally for the race car from when he won Le Mans in '86, which was basically how we got this as well.
What's that?
And so this is the box, the champagne. When you win Le Mans, you have your bottle of champagne. This is also the boxes. And
okay.
Fortunate enough, so yes, it's got nothing in it, but it's got a nice squiggle to my dad and stuff, like saying thanks for everything in '86. And that was the year Derek won Le Mans.
Awesome.
And so what OMP do is they mounted that wheel to a lovely piece of wood and a little plaque. It was like, you know, this is the wheel that won Le Mans. And yeah, it's just one of those things, just in his garage on the side, getting dusty and stuff. But it's a lovely bit of like history and automotive memorabilia, and just all his old, like all his reefs. Literally every reef he's ever won when racing, when they were still doing reefs. Got on the wall. You know, It's just all these amazing bits of history, and you're just like, this is amazing. This is true, man. So yeah, being around that car, and the fact that car. What a lot of people don't realise, they look at it and think, oh, it must have been restored, or, you know, it's had paint and this, that, and the other. It's not. It's completely original. The wheels have never been refurbed. The paint's never been touched. Apart from, I think it's had a couple of little stone chips touched in, but that's it. Hello, person in Belgium.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, you know, the Carrera sticker on the front was all worn and tatty, and I love Porsche to pieces because they're like, oh, Derek, let's you know, make it like new, and he's like, no. But then they'll sneak in little bits. If it goes in for a service, they'll do like, they've just put that new Porsche sat nav stereo thing in that looks like an old school stereo.
Okay.
And they're like, you've got sat nav now, Derek, you know, and like they put USB. I do remember him telling me, actually, that's what I meant to say last night, was he had he needed someone to plug his phone in, and they went, oh, sorry. So they hid some awesome little Porsche USB plug-in sockets under the dash. It's such a cool little touch, but it's so original. And anything that they've changed, like the original stereo, is in its box in the back, and but all the provenance is still there with it. But it's a pretty special. That's a car I would love to take out for a drive one day and stretch its legs, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You've done some pretty cool rallies kind of around Europe. If you had a Narnia-style wardrobe at home which would transport you and any car to a place that you've visited before, where would it be?
I think, probably, to be honest, and I'll probably get this completely wrong because I am rubbish with saying foreign places, but it's the Pyramiden Kogel Road in Worthersea. So it's the big wooden tower. That's, Lake Worthersea, near Lake, is it Fackesea or whatever it is? But yeah, it's just that road. I got to do some pictures when I went out to Worthersea a few years ago. A friend of mine took his ruby stone pink 964 up the mountain, and I got some lovely shots like the back of the car. But I would have loved to have, you know, got some of like the head of the car chasing up through the wood sections. Yeah, just, as you get to the top of the trees and you sort of poke out across the top of the trees. And then just the view is amazing, and you've got this wooden structure, and it's just, I love that road. It's amazing. So that road, and I'd probably love to do it with like an old 356A, something like that.
Okay.
Maybe like an outlawed one even, just something that's maybe a little bit different. But I just think that type of car and that location, it just all works.
Sounds cool.
Yeah.
I'll come along for that one as well, if that's all
Yeah,
right.
you can come with that one too. Yeah.
Your signature star seems to be lights out but lit up. And from working with you for numerous times, I know you've achieved this with light painting and layers in Photoshop. A couple of questions, really. What's the longest you've spent on a single photo edit? And what's your record for the number of Photoshop layers to make one final image?
So longest is 3 days on one shot. That was a guy called Mark with a really heavily modified TT. A few people, if you've been in the scene a while, you will know the car. It was a white TT, bagged out, had pink accents on it at one stage. But it was most notable because he'd done a custom grille where he'd taken the Audi badge from being in the centre of the grille and moved it off to one side.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, that.
Yeah, I loved it because it was such an OE touch. It was like, yeah, this could be like a concept style car. The way he'd done everything on it, crazy hi-fi in it. It was just insane. But we'd had this idea of, because Walking Dead was quite a big thing when we did the car. Like, and I've always wanted to do something with zombies. So I'm just like, okay, how do I do this? I'm like, okay, Photoshop, we can do this. I've just got to find the right assets, but we could make this work.
Yeah.
I found this fantastic stock royalty-free image of some zombies, but they're right up against like a real fine mesh fence.
Okay.
Because where we shot the car, it was a gate behind the car, but it's, one of those open slatted gates, vertical.
Yeah.
And I was like, I looked at it and you can just see all the mesh, and it just didn't work. It was a bit too busy and everything. And this is before we had all the smart cloning tools now. So if we had the tools now, I could probably do it like in a day. But back then we didn't have that amount of flexibility. So I was going in there and I was like, every person just like masking out over the little bits of fence, just so it looked clean enough so that when they're against this metal gate, it just all gelled. And by the time I balanced in all the layers and got it to look right, it was just one of those things that it pulls off real. It looks like we got a group of like 50 actors and actresses to look like zombies behind this gate, and it's all patched in, really toned in nicely. And most layers is a current work in progress. It's 50 layers deep at the moment. And it's of a friend of mine, Sam, built a car for SEMA last year, which is called the NAS Charger, which I also was involved a little bit in, which is an genuine Fast and the Furious car, Dodge Charger, Bombs Toretto, that's been put over the top of a Carl Edwards NASCAR and stuff. And there's videos of all of that over YouTube and stuff. DDE have just done a video today. They've just dropped a video, ironically, of the build. But yeah, so I thought the car had gone. I didn't get a chance to do a proper full shoot of it before it went to America. And the car came back after SEMA, so I got it at the docks. I was like, Sam, leave it at the docks, and we're going to shoot it there. I've got to shoot the car. This is my only second option. And yeah, there's one shot I'm working on where I went a bit crazy with lighting up elements all around the bit of the docks and bits on the car, and it's just, yeah. I've gone really OTT with it, but it looks amazing, and hopefully I'll have it finished soon. It's one of those, I like having jobs where I'll have a particular shoot where the client is in a rush for the shoot. They know that they'd rather let you just be creative with it. And so it's one of those, if I've got a bit of downtime, I'll go off and I'll do some work on that and just sort of chill out and do that a bit. So, yeah, that'll hopefully coming soon. That'll be coming soon.
So obviously those two are kind of exceptions. What's your sort of average time on a photo, and what's your kind of average layers and stuff?
Most night shoots, it depends on the car and the colour. Car and colour make a massive difference in terms of when you're light painting. Sometimes, like white cars, really easy because they light up straight away. The way the white is. Black, on the other hand, doesn't reflect light. It doesn't absorb it into the car. So with that type of thing, I'm literally having to go for the body lines and almost forcing the light to penetrate the car enough to get me the body lines. Yeah. And so with those cars, like a black car will normally say have double the amount of layers of a white car. But you just like the iGo, they were taking me, I was probably getting 2 shots done a day in terms of the light paint and stuff. The day stuff, 10, 20 shots a day. Because that stuff's really easy. It's not much mask work. You find a way, once you get used to stuff, you find it's like muscle memory. You're just doing it. And so yeah, masking up, doing stuff in the day, it all gels. It's just easy. Do you know what I mean? It's as easy as it sounds, and so it doesn't take me long.
It's just easy.
It's just easy. Yeah. I mean, having the right car helps.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like when we do a lot of the time is preparation. Like when we did the shoot with the Golfs down in the New Forest a few years ago.
Yeah.
You know, and we sort of had a base plan of what we were going to do, and like the tracking shots. The beauty of that is because it means yes, I can go in and I can take a car that we've parked statically on a road, and I can make it look like it's driving along. That's easy. But actually, if you get it in camera by actually hanging out the back of a van that's got the other cars behind you, it's a much quicker turnaround, and you end up with more options. So yeah, there's pros and cons to every situation, mate. But yeah, you can look at, for some shoots will take me 2-3 days to turn around. Others can take me 2 to 3 weeks. The IGO one has been a longer shoot because there was basically 3 shoots for one car that I had in 24 hours. Yeah. So that was quite a hard journey.
Is there a particular photography skill you wish you were better at?
Yeah, I wish I was better at studio work.
Okay.
Because it's one of those situations that I find really uncomfortable. You know, I prefer being out and about, outside, warehouses or whatever. I just prefer having stuff that's a usable space. Yeah. Whereas, and an inspiring space as well. Whereas in a studio, like, it's all white. Like there's nothing there that excites me. You know, it could be an amazing hypercar, don't get me wrong, and it could be very beautiful. But there's nothing there that's like, oh yeah, I want to get this or I want to get that. So yeah, I'd like to get a little bit more confident and a bit better at that option, because you do get, you get certain jobs come up and like, oh, we see you haven't really got much studio experience, but you can do the other bits, and it'd be nice just to be able to do, I can do it all.
The whole thing. Yeah. Go get some practice in then.
Yes. Yeah, they're just expensive. That's the other con to it. When you get a company that comes and goes, oh, can we do a studio shoot? And you price it up to them, and they go, oh, okay. That's the other joy to my light painting. You see, I can get the same similar effects out in the real world, and we can drop it into any other backdrop.
What's the expense there with the studio? The fact you've got to hire somewhere.
Yeah. You end up a lot of the time it's hiring of the physical place. But then also all of the lighting equipment, because a lot of them now, well, I say now, it's always really been a thing, but you can take some of your own lights, but really because of the space, you need the big lights, and so you've got to pay for the lights and bulbs and the wires to run to those lights, and then you've got to have a runner with you, a gaffer, because they'll insist that they have someone there that is properly trained on using the lights to move them. And so yeah, it's
we'll read that one in a second. It's mentioned Mulgari. We could go into that again if you want to.
Yeah, that's Mikey. He used to work at Mulgari.
So what's the story with Mulgari? Can we?
Yeah, so Mulgari was a cool thing. Worked with the guys at Mulgari pretty much from not long after they founded till things changed hands a couple of years ago now. But it was a cool adventure because it was doing a lot of creative work. I was given like carte blanche, so okay, we need this or that, and I'd go off and do it. Whether that be some funky shots of like the mini keys, so they developed a range of cars called the Icons. Yeah, they did the Icon 1, which is a one-off McLaren based on a 12C. Yeah. We then did a whole load of minis, which were Icon 3s, I think. Were they Icon 2s? I can't remember, Mikey. Help me. So yeah, we did the minis, and then we had the last one was the BMW based on M240i.
Okay.
Which I think did we have Chris Harris drive that? No, Henry Catchpole drove that too. Thank you, Mikey. So we did the minis, and that was really cool because that was a case of, with that car we hired Goodwood for the day. We did full brochure placement, advertising. I was in charge of everything, fully content creative on that project. Yeah. And it was insane, but I loved it. It was very tight deadlines. It was a big mix of stuff, but it was cool to actually see all my skills in different areas come together to pull off one thing. Yeah. So yeah, no, it was cool. It was a very cool journey. I'm glad, I've made some great friends like Mikey and stuff. It was just, it was good fun.
So I'm no photographer, but I'm sure there's going to be kind of plenty of people wanting to know whether you shoot on Nikon or Canon.
I am a Nikon user. I used to be a Canon user, but I had Canon when. So long story short, I'm a 35mm traditional film fan through and through, and it got down to I was shooting at Goodwood Festival of Speed one year, and I know a lot of the other pro togs that are motorsport. That's all they do. And I was there with my Canon film camera, and one of the guys turned around and said, "Nick, you must be the only photographer with a tabard still shooting film." And I was like, "Yeah, I think you're probably right." And I was like, "Okay, well, let's do the plunge." I take the plunge, and I had a few Canon early EOS cameras, digital stuff, and they're just always going wrong. And at that time, I was trying to get myself to this level where I was like, I can't be on a shoot and something break. That's just embarrassing. That's worst case scenario.
Yeah.
So I got there. I thought, do you know what? I didn't have a great deal with many lenses and stuff at that time, so I wasn't really going to lose much jumping to Nikon.
Yeah.
And I started playing more of the night photography stuff. And Nikons are far better for doing night photography. Canon are great. What Canon has over Nikon is daytime photos. I actually think look a little bit more punchier, a little better clarity.
Okay.
But they're better at also capturing reds than a Nikon is. And for some reason, Nikons haven't been, certainly with the D810, haven't been able to capture red to me as a real nice representation. But what they can do is the night photography side of things. They're a lot better at doing the light painting stuff, capturing what I need it to do.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of bits pieces that the Nikon can do that the Canon can't. Like I can overlay images in the body of the camera. So when I'm on location and I don't want to be having the hassle of using the camera tethered, so connected to a laptop, I can literally just be there and I can look on the back of the camera and I can grab like as many images I want and I can overlay them on the camera. I go, okay, yep, that looks fine. Or, oh no, I need a bit more light here or there. It just allows you to have a lot quicker workflow.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So Nikon.
Yeah, so Nikon. Long and short, Nikon.
And now I'm completely out of my depth, but for kind of those with a perversion for camera gear, have you got a favourite bit of kit, whether it's a lens or a secret setting or something you could share with us?
Yeah, so my favourite bit of equipment at the moment is something that I wanted from a very early stage, but it's one of those, it's a really expensive piece of equipment. But once you've got it, you wish you got it sooner and everything else. And that's a lens, and it's my 24 to 70mm telephoto lens, because it has such great depth of field that's natural. It's one of things, a lot of people like the instant fall off behind a subject matter, but sometimes, and it can look like for people shots, it's great to have a real instant drop off, and it's called bokeh when you get all like the lights and stuff, it's all blurry behind.
Okay.
And that looks great for a person. I'm not a big fan of it with cars. I like a little bit more of a steady drop off.
Yeah.
And that's what the 24 to 70 gives me. You know, it gives you such a beautiful diversity in what you can get with one lens.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my favourite bit of kit.
Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you could have one of your photos hung in like a pucker gallery, like the Tate Modern, for example, what would it be?
I would probably say it would be my front quarter shot of the Rolls-Royce Rat Rod from Vegas.
Okay.
That I shot out in the desert, just because it's one of those things where it's such the vehicle itself is seen as such a high-class brand, and people are used to seeing it as, you know, these perfect works of art type of thing. And we've taken it to a completely different level, you know, and it's been chopped and all the bodywork is stripped of paint, but it's aluminium, so it's polished up to a mirror finish, and it's like a jewel, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think it'd just be cool to see that hanging up there, and just because the color tones as well, the sky was naturally purple and it just all worked. It looks quite nice. I did a couple of versions of it as well for some of our product, for our sponsors that build. So like, there's even one where I've done it, and we've got the I think it was Lincoln Electric or American Electric, one of the big companies out in the States, where they make welders. They've done this new battery operated welder, and so we've got a shot of the welding stuff by the front of the Rolls Royce in the middle of the desert, and it's so bonkers and bananas, but it works. And it's just like that kind of stuff's quite cool. And if you're in the States, keep an eye out because they actually put it on the side of the trucks for a long time. I had it on the side of 40-foot long trailers and stuff out in America, which was insane.
What happened to that car in the end? Did it come back to the UK, or has it gone to collection?
So that's one of me and Sam's. Like how the Focus is one that I wish hadn't got away. The Rolls ended up going to the big auction that's, I think it was Nikon, and it's the big one where normally all the big SEMA cars get sold off at.
Yeah.
Each year. It's the one where the Bullet car went this year when it was sold. And a lot of money was invested in that car and it went way too cheap. And then subsequently it went to, I think it's up near Canada, I think. It went to a museum. And then we contacted them and they were, oh no, we've sold it. And I last looked and it sold for what we wanted to sell at auction, which was, it was heartbreaking, but then it was like good because people have seen it's worth the money. So yeah, it's one we've always talked about. If we could get the money together and find it, because we're not sure actually who has it at the moment. But if we could find it, we'd love to get it back to the UK because it's provenance with its original owner who was British and all that stuff. Yeah, that'd
be pretty cool.
Yeah, so that was the sort of the nice thing about the Charger. Like we now know where the Charger is. The NAS Charger has now got a new home in Switzerland.
Okay.
I think Switzerland or Sweden. It begins with S and is across the big blue wet stuff. But the guy who bought it started up a museum that's a tribute to Fast and the Furious. So he's going around buying props and cars and stuff, and he bought the NAS Charger. So that's cool. So we know where that is, and if we ever wanted it, we know how to get it. So
yeah. What's more important to you creatively? Is it location or subject? Like, would you rather shoot a Porsche in a car park or a Polo in the Alps?
God, these questions are good, Andy.
Got a bit of practice.
Yeah. So for me, it's really a location thing, but it also ties into what the car is. Now, for people who will look at a lot of my stuff most of the time, I like this whole juxtaposition thing where I like a supercar and a scrapyard type of scenario. You know, I like stuff that's in a place that it really shouldn't be. But on the same hand, if we're like at the top of the Grossglockner, then it's, you know, anything looks beautiful up there. I mean, I did some photos I did a event called Rally for Heroes a couple of years ago. And we had the AA as a primary supporter, which is handy because there's lots of TVRs and they always break. And anyway, so they were there and they're in this really cool liveried up Discovery. And I was like, you just got to, you know, it just looked awesome with the two guys in their jackets. They're just at the top of the Grossglockner Pass. There's the mountains behind them and there's a bright yellow AA Discovery. It's like, and it's those things, it's those moments. So I'm always a fan of a location that can allow me a lot more than I first imagined. It's always good to have sort of your own play about with it. Again, like when I've shot Goodwood so many times, but I'm always finding a new spot. And that's what I like. Whereas, you know, you'll see a lot of people and they'll go to a specific spot. They'll have one location and they'll only ever use that one spot.
Yeah.
You know, and it's, you sort of think, well, just explore a bit, you know, because you've got nothing to lose. What's the harm? Especially these days, you know, when it was 35mm film, I can understand that stuff was expensive, you know, and you'd only get 35 shots to a roll sort of deal. Whereas now, I've got my cards and it's not necessarily good to be snap happy, but it's also nice just to know that you've got that leeway to be like, okay, I can go off and try a shot from there and another one from over there and see what works. You know, it's all about learning. Every day's a school day, mate, and that's the thing.
With your kind of shots, have you got a particular angle which is like a favourite, like you default to front quarter or something like that? Or
yeah, I mean, so there's sort of an unwritten rule of thumb. Now everyone is, in terms of photography, always gets described about the rule of thirds, and that's a university college thing. And rule of thirds don't go out the window. No, I don't pay any attention to that one rule, because it doesn't work. For so much stuff, it doesn't work. It compromises what you want to try and get. But my main thing is that if the car is right-hand drive, the front quarter shot, like if it's a hero shot, should always be taken from the front passenger side. So you're going across. So the steering wheel is the furthest point away from you.
Okay.
It just always looks nicer. If you look at a shot where you've got the steering wheel towards you, so shooting from the driver's side to the right-hand side, it's also it feels like it's very front heavy because you've got this bulge in the windscreen. There's not room for it
Yeah.
to breathe. So front quarter shots tend to be my fave. Ironically, a shot that most people would think is probably the easiest is my nemesis, and that's the side-on shot. Getting side-on, because you can go from being absolutely perfect in a very tight space to in that same tight space being massively out, and you'll think on the camera and you go, yeah, that looks really cool, but then you'll get home and you'll start looking at it on a bigger screen. You're like, I should have moved around a little bit more that way or that way, and you know, it can very easily be a bit disheartening if it isn't absolutely pin on. Like if you've got the seats and you've lined the seats up in the car, and you get back and you're like, the seats are angled. And you're like, no, because it's nice when everything is all lined up. It's so much cleaner. So that's my sort of my favourite and my nemesis. But I do enjoy doing things like tracking shots. You know, it's one of those hanging out the back of the van and you've got a car and you're like, come on, come closer, trust me. You know, I know what we're doing. And you're getting a car right up close, and then what you get out of it is just something that's so dynamic and beautiful. And I've got rigs for doing rig work, you know, for manufacturer stuff. But hello Adam, I know who that is. Yeah, the rig stuff is a bit of not a dark art, but it takes up a lot of space. Yeah. When you do tracking shots, it's great because you haven't got loads of stuff hanging off a car or whatever. You can do stuff quickly. With rig work, you need to know that this is definitely where you want to do it, and that you're going to take 20 minutes to set it up, 30 minutes to set it all up, and out of that, you're only going to get 4 shots, maybe 5. You know, because you don't want to end up with a million of the same thing. Yeah. So. Yeah, it's good to have a lot, like all of the stuff. It's just knowing where and when to use it.
That's fair enough. Yeah. We'll kind of wrap it up in a sec. Have you dabbled with video?
Not really. And it's something I want to dabble a bit more with. Because it's one of those things where so many people are doing it that I don't want to necessarily dilute what I do myself. Because that's the thing. At the end of the day, if I end up going down the route of doing more video stuff, then I'm losing concentration on the photography side or certain bits of post-production. But I'm saying, like, I'm probably going to look at getting all my drone license and stuff sorted, because there's a lot of stuff in that market now. A lot of OEMs love overhead stuff or those dynamic angles. And there's only so much you can get away with a step ladder at the side of the road. So, yeah, I'd probably like to get that sorted this coming year and get sort of a drone. Get a drone in my life.
Awesome. Thank you very much, man.
That's right.
Always a pleasure. For doing it all again.
Yeah.
Massive thanks for joining me. For those people who kind of want to look you up, you're at NWVT on Instagram and Facebook. Correct. And nwvt.co.uk on the old Tinterweb.
Yes, that's right. Find me there.
If there's people out there who'd love to chat live with myself or Steph, then please do drop us a DM and we can have a chat about getting you on. Big thanks to anyone who's kind of tuned in this afternoon. It wasn't advertised. We kind of did this sort of spare of the moment, really, because it all went a bit Pete Tong last night. And
it's technology, mate. It's part of the fun of it, you know. Ironically, I think tonight's gone even better. So, you know, let's forget.
I think it's gone pretty well, fingers crossed we're going to be able to save it. We're going to get it onto Instagram TV in a matter of moments. And we'll get it onto Facebook pretty soon as well. So, thank you very much, everyone. Cheers, Nick.
Yeah,
much appreciated.
Thank you, everyone, for watching.
We'll catch you soon. See you soon. Stay safe, everyone.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.